So now that we're warmed up and we've given Kevin an opportunity to warm up his vocal cords, we now move on to the prepared speaking part of our meeting today. Elma, would you like to tell us the objective of Kevin's speech, please?
Sure, I'd love to. Kevin's project is called Communicate Change. The purpose of the project is for Kevin to practice the skills needed to effectively communicate change to a group or organization. And the purpose of this speech is for him to practice speaking about change.
Thank you very much, Elma. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Kevin Broughton, with his speech entitled, Are We Able? Yes. Are we willing? That is the unanswered question. Are we able? Yes. Are we willing? That's the unanswered question. Kevin Broughton.
What is Earth Day? At its most basic, it's a 50-year-old tradition dedicated to bringing the environment to the forefront, bringing together communities around the world in a huge campaign to tackle modern-day environmental problems. I think it's fair to say that environmentalism is about quality of life, but the first challenge is perhaps the definition of quality and whose life. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and potential skeptics, deniers, contrarians, or perhaps more politically paraphrased, climate change doubters. Some believe that Gaylord Nelson committed political suicide, in traditional politics that is, by his use of the phrase climate change back in the 1960s. But his advocacy for climate change and being founder of Earth Day has left an amazing legacy. Gaylord said, "The wealth of the nation is its air, water, soil, forests, minerals, rivers, lakes, oceans, scenic beauty, wildlife habitats, and biodiversity." That's all there is. That's the whole economy. That's where all the economic activity and jobs come from. These biological systems are the sustaining wealth of the world. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? How can it be a challenge to accept that the most fundamental elements to our existence are the quality of the air that we breathe, the purity of the water that we drink, and the diversity of animals and plants that we are a part of, our relationship with our environment? I refer back to Gaylord, who so aptly said that ecology is a big science, not a narrow one. It's a big concept, and it is concerned with all of the ramifications of all the relationships of all living creatures to each other and the environment. Not just how we dispose of our tin cans, bottles, and sewage. He continues to say that the problem is rats in the ghetto, a hungry child in a land of affluence, housing that is not worthy of the name, and neighborhoods not fit to inhabit. That was over 50 years ago. And what's happened since? The IPCC, that's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, reported in February this year that climate change is already impacting every corner of the world. This body of work involved 34,000 studies, 270 authors from 67 countries. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called the report an atlas of human suffering and a damning indictment of failed climate leadership. There were 6 takeaways. Number 1, climate impacts are already more widespread and severe than expected. Kelsey Priest. Number two, we are locked into even worse impacts from climate change in the near term. Number three, risks will escalate quickly with higher temperatures, often causing irreversible impacts of climate. Number four, inequity, conflict, and development challenges highlight vulnerability to climate risks. Adaptation is crucial. Feasible solutions already exist, but more support must reach vulnerable communities. And finally, some impacts of climate change are already too severe to adapt to. The world needs urgent action now to address losses and damages. What does this mean? The window of opportunity is rapidly closing, and for some, it is already closed. Rising seas and melting ice caps would take centuries to reverse, even if we acted now. Human activity has caused the world's wildlife population to plummet by more than 2/3 in the last 50 years. That's according to reports from the World Wildlife Fund. Some extinctions, and I mean some, include the Bayaji river dolphin, the western black rhinoceros, the Pinta giant tortoise from the Galapagos, the Pyrenean ibex, golden toad, and the splendid poison frog, the Javan tiger, and possibly most important, the bramble K melames of Australia, the first documented mammal extinction caused by human-made climate change. Habitat destruction, where biota fail to support their original biodiversity through climate change, the harvesting of natural resources, and human urbanization, affectionately called spatial distribution. Add to this more people needing more food means more farms and more habitat destruction. Carlos mentioned the polymer fog, the microplastic pollutants found in the air atop mountains and in the sea. Did you know that microplastics are now circulating in our blood? Last month, studies in Amsterdam identified polyethylene terephthalate PET, commonly used in clothing and drink bottles, and polymers of styrene, often found in used vehicle parts, carpets, and food containers. Let's face it, our relationship with nature is busted. Okay, by now you're probably in one of a few different states, based primarily on whether you're an open or closed mindset kind of person. You've either absorbed what's been said or dismissed it. If you've absorbed it, you'll be thinking either it's hopeless, why do anything? Or chomping at the bit to find out more and what we can do. I'm hoping you're the latter, not the former. But unfortunately, there is no panacea, no silver bullet, and absolutely no quick fix. To be honest, if I had a magic wand, I'm not sure people would like the solution. We need fewer people. We need fewer meat-eating people. We need fewer hungry people. We need fewer people in poverty. We need fewer selfish people. We need fewer consumer-orientated people. We need fewer uneducated people. What's the challenge that these things combined represent? Mutual respect for all human beings, all living creatures, and all biota. We are all unique. We are all the same. Why and how we make decisions are all too often based on selfish reasoning and protectionism, that instant judgment based on a lifetime of subconscious bias and self-preservation. The reality? However many Ancestry.com DNA tests we take to establish some speck of shared racial heritage or connection, we are all, every Homo sapien, derived from the same biological footprint. We are ultimately one race, the human race. The United Nations Environment Programme for Making Peace with Nature, released in 2021, has echoed our continuing failure to live up to internationally agreed goals. The ultimate challenge is our willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations, whose words of thanks will not be heard. What can we do? And please do something. Tune into Earth Day Live on Friday. Use the internet, not trees. Plogging, that's picking up litter whilst jogging. Fight climate change with diet change. Advocate for climate education. Encourage your workplace to take climate action. Share your story. Stand against deforestation. Join the Global Earth Challenge. Calculate your carbon footprint. Calculate your plastic consumption. Organize a community cleanup. Ask for green power. Switch to reusable bags. Learn how to combat plastic pollution. Compost. Switch to online billing. Push for plant-based options. Buy local food. Use a reusable water bottle. Eat less meat. Practice sustainable fashion. Tell your elected leaders to ban single-use plastics. Are we able? Yes. Are we willing? That's the unanswered question. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with the unanswered question and what it is that we can all do, even just in our small way, to do something completely different. So thank you so much for that. Another small way, and I love the way that in your speech you either picked up what we mentioned in the warm-up, or alternatively you already had it in there. But I love the way that you did refer to a lot of the ideas that we had already had today, and that our members had shared.